Yes, guys, good afternoon. How are you? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. It's Friday, the 5th of December. It's about midday, and we've got some transfer news, views, and clues to get into. So let's not waste any time. Your time is valuable, guys. Please do smash the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell like you guys always do. I love you for all of your support. Thank you so much for all the messages, by the way, that you sent regarding your YouTube watch time and the fact that the Spurs Talk shows up in your sort of top threes or whatever. Really do appreciate it. It means the world. It really does. Hit the comment section or let me know your thoughts on today's topics. We are, of course, also available on Spotify and Apple Pods and Amazon. So if that's your jam, then please do search for Spurs Talk Show over there and give us a follow. Guys, we've got a couple of really interesting stories out again today. Listen, what I'll start by saying is I don't know the veracity, the strength of any of these links. They're coming from good places. We've got stuff with Antoine Semenyo from Sky Sports. But I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start really at the back line because we always build up to something nice at the end. We've got a nice new story out about Jean-Philippe Mateta and also a new name for us that's coming out of Italy in the forward line. But at the back line, guys, this is maybe the seventh or eighth name in the last couple of weeks that I will have mentioned to you guys regarding centre-back searches, centre-back links, and a lot of them, the majority of them are right-sided, right-footed players that can either play in the middle or the right side of a back three, or they can play on a back four. They could also play as a right back. And I sit there and I'm wondering why. Why is it that Tottenham have been linked with players like Gleison Bremer? We were linked with Scalvini. We were linked with Joel Ordoñez, who's the player I'm going to talk to you about today. We were linked with Jean-Paul Hecke, Van Hecke, the Brighton defender, yesterday and again this morning. And it's not for the first time either. These centre-backs are not players that are going to come in and play second fiddle to Micky van der Ven. These are not left-footed, left-sided players that are able to add that sort of strength in depth in a world where Micky van der Ven either was to have a risk of injury or where we wanted to kind of reposition him and reprioritize some of his talents to be able to take advantage of his skill sets that most defenders don't have. And as I've been saying for a long time, I understand the risk of like overexerting players into letting them like sprints, letting them use their pace to be able to get forward and to get us out of trouble. I understand the risk, especially a player that suffered 3 or 4 hamstring injuries. What I would also say is that if we are never going to ever utilize Micky van der Ven to his full strength, then because of the fear of injuries, then I feel like, you might as well consider the notion of selling him for the unbelievable amount of money that you could get for him. Let that sort of risk be taken on by somebody else and then reposition that money into getting unbelievable defenders that do the defensive stuff better than he can do. He is a very good defender, but his number one core strength, obviously, is his ability, is his pace and his ability to also run with the ball as like an additional value asset that most defenders don't have. He is a very good defender, but there are better defenders out there in terms of aerial strength, in terms of positional strength from corners and set pieces. And so I just feel like if we're never going to utilize him for the additional things that he can do that others can't because of a fear of injuries, then we might as well, in my opinion, utilize the value that we have and go and rebuild in a different way, especially if we're going to play a sort of deeper block like we seem to be doing under Thomas Frank. I'm not advocating for his sale, by the way. I'm advocating for we utilize him better. But you can't do that unless you have a left-footed, left-sided centre-back that is of equal composure, equal strength in the defensive side. And I haven't been that impressed, even though I thought Kevin Danso did very well aerially, playing on the left side against Newcastle. Generally speaking, I haven't been that impressed when I've seen other players other than Micky van der Ven play in his position because they're unbalanced, they're right-footed, and they usually obviously cut the area out, cut the side of the left side of the pitch out when they want to pass the ball. So for me, it's a problem. And I don't mind seeing Tottenham linked with left-footed, left-sided centre-backs. Of course, we've been linked with Castello Luqueba and a bunch of others over the last few weeks, but none of those have materialised. But recently, all of the defenders we seem to be looking at are right-footed, right-sided players that can also maybe even be used as a right wing, as a right-back scenario. And it begs the question, why? Is there some thought processes here that maybe Kota Takai's injury is going to be more prolific and more ongoing than we thought when we signed him? If so, was that a mistake? Dragusin, he's just getting back to business now. We've got Luka Vuskovic coming in. Luka Vuskovic, for what it's worth, has spent most of his time when he's played for Hamburg playing off the left-hand side, which I think is brilliant news for us, that we can get a player that comes in that is more used to playing on the left-hand side. That, to me, is a really nice thing to look forward to seeing. Even though he is right-footed, he's young enough and smart enough and definitely talented enough to be able to kind of kick into gear and learn to use his left foot with equal composure. But the story today is about Joel Ordoñez and Van Hecke from Brighton. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the scout report that I've done on these two players. So Jean-Paul Van Hecke, we know him from Brighton fame, right? He's very talented. He's very well-rounded. He's tall. He's very strong in the air. His positional sense is absolutely fine. He's a lovely passing centre-back as well. I really, really like him. I know he obviously scored the own goal that got us back into the game when we went to Brighton earlier on in the season. But generally speaking, I think players like him, next to Lewis Dunk, they have just sort of a decent understanding of positional sense, maybe better than what we already have in players like Romero and players like Van der Ven. From aerial threats, no problem at all. We do have a propensity to give up a lot of goals from the edge of the box. He is someone that can close players down because he's not sluggish or slouch. He's not a slouch in that regard. He's a player that I really do rate. I'm not sure of the veracity of the links, but Tottenham are apparently preparing a £40 million bid for the 25-year-old. According to all reports, the Dutch centre-back has been admired by Tottenham for a long time, and we view him as an ideal fit for their defensive system. The links did start all the way back to last summer, and apparently we're strongly considering making a formal approach before turning, and if that doesn't work, turning our attention to other targets. He's a long-term replacement option in central defence, especially as we prepare, according to these reports, for a potential squad reshuffle under manager Thomas Frank. His contract goes until 2027. And that obviously gives Brighton a lot of leverage. Now, we know that Tony Bloom, who's under his own stresses and pressures right now for accusations of kind of illegal corruption within the betting markets and things. I'll talk about that on Sean Butler TV later on today. If you're interested, please do check that out. But ultimately, I think, Brighton usually get top money for their players. And I don't have any issue with it. I really do like him. But again, there's no problem with the player, no problem with the talent, no problem with the fit. I'm just not sure why it is that we're looking for right-sided, right-footed centre-backs when we already have Danzo, Romero, Dragusin, Kota Takai, and arguably Vuskovic as well, that are waiting to come back in the wings. Anyway, the story is there. Let me know your thoughts on that one. As far as Joel Ordoñez, now Joel Ordoñez is a player that plays for Club Brugge. I love Club. I watch Club Brugge most weeks. I always spend time catching up on them. I think they're a fantastic team at home. Not so good away from home in Europe, but they're a brilliant, brilliant team to watch at home. And Joel Ordoñez is a monster in the back for them. He does play on the right side. He can play as a right back, doesn't really play on the right side of that back four. And for me, he is a really interesting player. He is 21 years old. And he comes from Ecuador, right? Big, strong, tough, sort of no-nonsense centre-back. He's about 188, so about 6'2". He's brilliant in the air, brilliant positionally, great in the tackle, super strong. He's very fast as well, very fast. And he's like I say, his jump, his reach, his hops, is what the kids call it, is absolutely phenomenal. Don't forget, he pocketed Ollie Watkins in a Champions League game. I think it was last season, was it? And he's a player that, listen, I genuinely do rate. I don't think he's someone that will come in and be immediately in the first team. Obviously, he wouldn't dispossess Romero or anything. But again, not entirely sure why it is that we are looking for that sort of player. But if we are going to look at him, I don't mind it. I don't mind Tottenham always going for these things. But he's going to cost quite a lot of money. I think 35 to 40 million pound. Chelsea are also looking at this guy. Is this just, trying to get hold of this more of this youth-centric model, trying to find all the latest talent that's 21 years old, bring them in, snap them up, and see where we go? Listen, his build-up play is really impressive, especially in that Brugge system. For me, his composure in the build-up, his technical assurance is really special as well. He's got a 92.5%, something like that, passing accuracy, and that's not just back and forth to his centre-backs or to his full-back. He obviously does progress the ball as well. But like I say, I think he can step into a high line if that's what we wanted to play. No problem, because of his pace and his get out of jail free card element to him. I think one of the things that you have to admire about him is, despite being aggressive and strong and physical. His temperament is very clever. You don't see him making too many errors, although he has got one red card this season. I think that I'm not sure if that was for a double yellow or for what happened there, but he does have it. But generally speaking, his temperament is incredibly well respected for someone so young, which is a good thing. Like I say, I'm happy. I like the player. I really do. I don't know why we're looking at him, though. I'm not sure. Obviously, that it makes you think, are we looking to go to a back three, but we can't do it right now? Are we thinking maybe that someone in our current squad needs to move on? Is it Rodrygo? His agent, is he going to start chirping again the second that he's fit? Is he going to say, well, why isn't he playing? I don't know. Kevin Danso, for me, has done a really good job since he's been at Tottenham, and I've got no interest in selling him. I do think that Ordoñez is a player that will be a massive name in football over the next 2 to 3 years. So it'll be great to have him in the squad. But again, is it a priority? I'm not sure. Let me know your thoughts on that one, guys. Let's move up the pitch, shall we? Let's move up the pitch to Jean-Philippe Mateta. Apparently, scouts have watched and attended multiple Crystal Palace games this season to assess the performances of Mateta and Mark Gahey. Whenever I see these sorts of things, I'm always like, have you, like, really? Are you just going there because it's your local thing to do? It's your job. It's a team down the road. Like, everybody knows. You don't need to send a scout to watch Jean-Philippe Mateta in person, right? You know Jean-Philippe Mateta, what sort of player he is. And if you don't know by now, I'm not sure what a scout is doing personally. A wonderful player, bigger, faster, stronger, right? He fits the trend and the mode in the Premier League, and is someone that I'd absolutely love to see. Late bloomer into football, wasn't doing much before Oliver Glasner got his hands on him. Will he be the same elsewhere under a different system? I think he would fit Thomas Frank's sort of model to a glove. He has got 18 months left on his contract. We know Steve Parish is a nightmare in terms of allowing players to leave, or at least even dealing. He does sell players eventually, but he always gets his pound of flesh. He's kind of like a little mini Daniel Levy, isn't he, in that regard? There are rumours, though, apparently, that Jean-Philippe Mateta, he's not necessarily happy with the way that contract negotiations are going, which may be part of the reason why there's stories out there. But from all I've seen as well, he's more interested in going to AC Milan at the end of next season, going to Milan where he wants to take the next step in his career path. We shall see. I don't know what it is about AC Milan, Inter Milan. They seem to just always have this draw for players, even though they won't earn as much money over there as they do in the Premier League, and certainly the football. Maybe you could make the argument it's a little bit of a slower pace, therefore it's you're playing for a bigger club, but a lower kind of standard of football. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe that's disrespectful. But Jean-Philippe Mateta, apparently Tottenham Hotspur are very much looking at it. I can't believe we would make a move in that regard. But we shall see. Let's move back to Rayan, shall we, guys? Remember Rayan, this kid out of Vasco da Gama. So Rayan has been linked with Tottenham all summer and then into this year. The player's release clause is currently 40 million euros. Not a lot of money for a kid. And listen, there is a wonderful array of talent coming out of Brazil right now. And most of them are hitting the ground running. They're going through like a kind of golden era of new talent. It's been a while since Brazil have developed so much young talent so quickly. But they do have this conveyor belt of talent. And thanks to Brexit, it is possible now. One of the only things you can say that phrase, thanks to Brexit, without saying the world is falling apart in the UK. I don't know. By the way, I'm not getting into politics. I actually was someone who at the time was on board it for what it's worth. But anyway, the reality is that that because of that kind of contractual thing with regards to work permits and things, we can now sort of skip the queue in waiting for the traditional Spanish and Portuguese teams to bring those talents over. They develop themselves there, and then British teams end up then having to pay 5-6 times more for these players once they've proven themselves. It's not the case. And we, like Chelsea and like a lot of other teams in the Premier League, are looking at the Brazilian market and trying to find some of these gems. And Rayan is a player that Tottenham Hotspur are very, very much looking at. It does say on this article that according to O Globo, an agreement has now been reached between Vasco da Gama and the players' representatives on a new contract that will run until 2028. The agreement does not entirely rule out a sale to Europe next summer, and Rayan will receive an improved salary. I think this is more around a protection of that release clause, because the release clause is currently at 40 million euros, but they're not sure if that's high enough. They think that if he carries on playing the way he does, or he has been, then we will have to pay a lot more. And the rumours are that the new contract might see his release clause to rise to 70 million euros. I'm pretty sure if you were to put 40 million quid down now, though, you would get the player. Is it the right move? Listen, he's 19 years old, super talented, can play off the right, can play off the left. And if you've watched him on the Y Scout or on YouTube, I'm sure you would agree with me that he does look like someone that would be he would be very, very interesting to have, and a sort of bums out of seats type of player at Tottenham Hotspur. We don't have too many of them, do we? We haven't had too many of them for a long time, really. And so it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting. Is it the best way to spend 40 million right now? I pitched to you guys yesterday the idea of Yan Diomande, and the stories are there that Tottenham are looking at him. I think Yan Diomande is a special player. I really do. I think Yan Diomande is a player that people will be talking about right up there with the likes of the Rafael Leaos and the Nico Williams of the last couple of seasons. I think Yan Diomande will get there. I think he's got little traits around Jeremy Doku in him. I think he's got a bit of Rafinha in him as well. But when I pitched it to you guys on the live stream, most of you said, no more kids, Sean. If you feel that way about Yan Diomande, who's doing it at Leipzig and who did it in La Liga, then I'm sure you're going to say the same thing about Rayan. Let me know your thoughts. The links are still there. Will Tottenham get something done there in the way of business in January? We shall see. We shall see. Next story for you guys is a player by the name of Matteo Pellegrino. This is the new name for you today. Parma fame. 24-year-old Matteo Pellegrino is a centre forward for Parma. He's got 4 goals this season. This guy is a unit, right? He's a big, old school, strapping, typical old school number 9. 6'4", built very, very solid. He's got a wonderful hold-up play. He's got a nice turn for a big fella. He can hit the ball for sure. Very, very solid in the air. Not blessed with pace. He's slow as a snail, if I'm entirely honest. So I'm not sure if that will sort of tickle your fancy. But in terms of like old school, traditional centre-forward model, he certainly ticks the box. And Tottenham Hotspur are linked with him. Look, I'll just talk a little bit about him. For me, he can press very well. When I say maybe I'm being harsh, he's not slow as a snail, but he's got that natural kind of that inability to be top draw speed, unless you're built like Erling Haaland, who's a unique beast. This guy is like 6'4", 6'5", and he is, I think he's 6'4", 6'5". I'm pretty sure he is. He's 6'4", and he is but he works very hard, right? He's got a strong work ethic. He's gritty. He's determined. He does chase down blind alleys, and he's very good in the press. He's a valuable asset, but is he someone that's really going to move the needle for you guys? I'm not sure. I don't think he's the sort of player that Tottenham fans are going to go, oh, fantastic. Now I understand the system and I like the system. Because if he's the sort of player that we go after, then I think you're going to see more and more of just whipping balls into the box like we saw against Fulham. And if we're going to do that, we need players that are better crossers of the ball. Pedro Porro is our best crosser of the ball. And when he's not on it, which he hasn't been for large parts this season, then our crosses, I think, was it 17 crosses in the game against Fulham? Not one of them completed against the back line of Calvin Bassey and Joaquin Anderson, who are good, but certainly not the best defenders in the game. And so I don't know. It's a little bit kind of, is that the way we really want to see Tottenham play football? Just crossing balls into big lumps in the box? That really doesn't strike the sort of Tottenham way for me. And if you were to see a player like this come in, I think that would kind of accentuate and amplify the likelihood of that being the style that we settle on. So I'm rooting against this one. But for what it's worth, as a footballer, Matteo Pellegrino for me is a nice player. He's an old school, strong Chris Wood type centre forward, just in Italian version. Like him, I like the player. Nothing wrong with it. Do I just like him wearing a Tottenham shirt? I don't think so. Not for me. Let me know your thoughts if you're familiar, and we shall move on. Antoine Semenyo, guys. Antoine Semenyo. We speak about this one every day, don't we? According to Sky Sports, Tottenham are making the most amount of effort to sign Bournemouth winger Antoine Semenyo. The report states that Spurs are now willing to pay an amount similar to the 80 million euros previously demanded by Bournemouth. This amount is specified as 75 million euros, including bonuses, and corresponds to the release clause in the player's new contract. The report also mentions that Ghana's absence from the Africa Cup of Nations could help speed up the process if all parties move closer to an agreement. That one came out yesterday, last night, I think it was. We shall see, guys, on that one. You know how I feel. The story about Yandi Amandi that's been talking about Tottenham making advanced, seriously moving in the right direction of advancements for this particular player. It was also joined by Liverpool. I don't think Liverpool will get Semenyo and Yandi Amandi. By the way, for me, I'm okay with Yandi Amandi, and I'm more than okay, obviously, with Semenyo. I know most of you will probably want Semenyo because he's here now, ready now, tried and tested and proven, and we don't want any more kids. I get it. So in a world where Liverpool want to go after Yandi Amandi, then does that free up a spot for Tottenham maybe to step in and get that one done? And if so, can we get it done early in January? When this is one of the things I wanted to say to you quickly, guys. We talk a lot about Thomas Frank right now. Is he the right manager? Should he be sacked? Should he not? Well, I personally think that, I don't think he's done anything near enough to be sacked. I think that there's question marks. I am frank doubt as whether he's the right guy. But what I would say, there's a lot of reasons as to why you shouldn't necessarily sack him before January. And the reason being, one of them, a small one, but still a noteworthy one, is if you remember back in August, he said that we were looking for a left winger. We were looking for targets. But if you can't find the guy, he'd rather wait. He'd rather not just spend it on someone that he doesn't think is the right guy. He'd rather wait until the next opportunity. And so if that's what happened after failing to get Savio, and he said, you know what, I can't find anybody else for the left wing spot. Let's wait. Let's see how we go. We'll try some of our left wingers and see if anyone sort of steps up and really grabs the opportunity. And they haven't. And then you sack him as a consequence of poor performance and poor form before he gets that opportunity. What message does to replace the opportunity to sign Savio or whoever else in the January window? What message does that send to the next guy? The message to the next guy is, well, first of all, managers at Tottenham don't get any time at all to settle in. But secondly, if they do come in, then even if they can't get the player they want, they're not going to say, I'll wait and see and wait until the next window, because they won't necessarily get until the next window in order to make it happen. And so I feel like if Thomas Frank was brave enough to say, if you can't get me Savio, then I don't really want anyone in that spot. I'd rather wait until January. Let's go again. Then, part of the reason why we're maybe underperforming is because we don't have the balance in the team. We don't have an obvious left winger that's really stepping up and grabbing the ball by the horns. And so you shouldn't punish the guy for saying, well, don't waste the money on someone that's 50% the right guy. I'd rather wait, work with someone that's 20% the right guy. And then in the next window, we'll get someone that's 85% the right guy or whatever else. So I think that we need to see what happens on the first couple of days of January, the first week or two of January. But bearing in mind that he's decided to wait, and bearing in mind there's been 4 months between September and December, then for me, I don't want to see Tottenham having to wait until the 31st of January to get a left winger in. I think that they should have had enough conversations. They should have identified their 1, 2, and 3 targets for that particular role, whether that's Malik Fofana, whether that's Semenyo, whether that is Yandi Amandi, whoever that is, those decisions should be happening now. Those discussions should be happening now. The triggering of release clauses or the offering of the right money should be happening on January the 1st. But the other clubs should be aware of what's going to happen. Hopefully those discussions are already taking place so that we can start the new year with a bang and also give those other teams enough time to go and find a replacement. And for me, that's the only way that this sort of model is acceptable. Let me finish up for you guys with a couple more stories. Let me know your thoughts. So we've got Antoine Semenyo. We've got Rodrygo, apparently, according to Team Talk, Rodrygo is open to a move to the Premier League, and several English clubs, including Tottenham Hotspur, are monitoring the situation closely. Tottenham, Chelsea and United are also monitoring him, though their interest appears less advanced at this time. Real Madrid are reportedly unwilling to sell Rodrygo for a low price and value him at around 80 million euros. A January move would likely be difficult to arrange, and sources suggest that Real Madrid's preference is for him to stay until the summer before considering his departure. As I've said 1,000 times, I don't think the logic should be that he won't come. Whether he decides to come, I think the logic could be and should be a loan deal with no obligation, no option, or maybe an option if everyone's willing to do so. But because his minutes are so limited at Real Madrid, because there is civil war under Xabi Alonso's tenure, and he's part of the people that don't like Xabi Alonso, Is he going to get time there ahead of the World Cup? It's a World Cup transfer year, guys. World Cup year transfer windows often equal slightly crazy outcomes. We didn't really see it 4 years ago because the Qatar World Cup started before the January window. And so most of that craziness happened in the summer, but that was just a normal window. But if you go back 8 years, it was busy and it was bananas. So I'm looking forward to this January window to see what's going to take place, especially now that we have the final game week of the Champions League and the Europa League also taking place a couple of days later than last season. So it's going to be a bit weird and a little bit wild, and I am excited to see it. I'm excited to see it, guys. Let me talk a little bit quickly about Vicario. I think I mentioned this to you yesterday. Vicario apparently isn't happy in London. He apparently, after being booed, he might be wanting to leave. And apparently Inter Milan and AC Milan are reportedly targeting Vicario for either a January move or a summer move. I'd be very surprised to see anything happen in January. For what it's worth, for me, I don't mind. Vicario for me is a great goal. I've said this to you 1,000 times. He makes the difficult things look easy and the easy things look difficult. He's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde. I don't like the fact that he always turns and blames other people when mistakes happen. But I do respect the fact that he comes out and faces the music and always is willing to take an interview. I do respect that from him. But I don't necessarily think he's the guy that can really give us the security to take us forward in our system. I can't think of a team that ever was successful in the Premier League that had an unpredictable or volatile goalkeeper. I'm not sure if we'll sell him in January. If we could do a deal with AC Milan, though, for some sort of swap deal, player plus cash for swap deal for Mike Maignan, I would be over the moon with that. Mike Maignan, for me, is a quality goalkeeper. If you could also go and get Diogo Costa from Porto, that would be something that I'd be very interested in. And obviously, to a lesser extent, Anders ter Stegen, not quite as much. Mark Anders ter Stegen, sorry, not quite as much. I think he's a little bit down the pecking order. But it wasn't long ago that ter Stegen was a phenomenal keeper at Barcelona and part of the leadership group. So it'll be interesting to see if he will move in January as well. With that being said, though, about goalkeeping news, if it's not going to be Mike Maignan, there is the link for James Trafford to come to Tottenham. James Trafford obviously signed for Manchester City in the summer. What hasn't gone well for him, right? He turned down Newcastle to go to Manchester City under the sort of provision, under the viewpoint or the understanding that he was going to be first choice. Now, he did start against Tottenham and he put in an absolute stinker. And I'm not sure how many games he started since, but hasn't gone well. Obviously, they also brought in Donnarumma from PSG, who's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And look, maybe he's just a victim of poor circumstance, where there was an opportunity for City to say, oh, God, Donnarumma's available. You can't miss that one. Go and get him now. And as a consequence, James Trafford is now down the pecking order and probably wants out because he wants to get back to first-team football, being a regular somewhere. Do I think James Trafford is the player that I'd like to see, the goalkeeper for Tottenham? I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure. I thought last season he was brilliant. I thought he was very, very impressive last season. Look, he's homegrown. For sure, there's value there. He's good with his feet. He's a good shot stopper. Do I think he's a top 4 team, top 5 team goalkeeper? Not yet. I don't. I know that sounds weird because he signed for Manchester City and he was going to be their goalkeeper until Donnarumma came along. I do really like James Trafford. Whenever I've seen him, I've been generally impressed. But I do think he also has that sort of gene in him where he can get a little bit sloppy with his concentration. I don't mind it. He'd be... I prefer him to Vicario probably, but I'd certainly prefer Diogo Costa or Mike Maignan ahead of him if you gave me the selection. But I do think it's worth pointing out as well, of course, that we have there's homegrown issues at the football club and stuff, and with regards Champions League and European squad positioning, then that should be a consideration. I don't mind it. I don't hate this story. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I'm not really I'm a bit on the fence on that one, to be honest. I'm okay with it, but I'm not going to sit there and celebrate like it's a game changer for us. I don't think it is. Guys, I think that's about it. I've been going for half an hour. I do apologize for the long one, but lots to talk about. I will see you later on this evening for a live stream, hopefully. And I will also be on the Rabbit Hole Ramblings at 9 p.m. Check out the link in the description for that. Come and see us if you like a little bit of conspiratorial stuff. It's good fun, good content. Friday night fun can be had with us tonight. See you later, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, bye-bye.